Well, howdy doody. Is that the worst way to start the song? Probably is. So, I don't play the guitar. I'm just going to be honest with you. But this is my brother's guitar. As you can tell by all the stickers that I did not put on there. And my brother played this guitar for many years. This is his guitar from early elementary school all the way through high school before he decided to move on to different guitars and moved away. So, I have my brother's guitar today to talk about acoustics and sound and what all that fancy stuff means. And I'm not much of an educated person on this matter. However, through class, we have discussed some basic principles that go behind the process of, well, acoustics. Acoustics being the way that, well, as we talked about in class, acoustics pretty much being like sound through air, so on and so forth. You remember. So essentially, let's start off with just playing. As you can see, when I play this, as I pluck on the strings or, play the strings, sound is emitted from this thing. You do not need an amp for this guitar. This is what we call an acoustic guitar. And how does that make sound? So when it comes to like electric guitars, or let's say the keyboard, I actually have a keyboard right here. When it comes to these things, the sound is not produced through just the acoustics of that. It actually has to do a whole lot of like transferring and whatnot. But when it comes to this, you can just play this, So if I wanted to, I could act like I know how to play, and I could just go. As you can see, I don't know how to play, but I get the gist. You play this, sound will be made. What do we know about the emittance of sound? Well, we know that sound is made by objects that vibrate. So when you play a string, see that? When you play a string, you'll see the string is actually shaking when you play it. What does that mean? Well, when you cause the string to vibrate through that, it's going to emit sound that's going to bump the tripod. It's going to travel through the air into our ears, which will then be perceived to the pitch and whatnot. You'll notice that when I play it just here, it emits that sound that sounds like a B flat? I don't know. I'm more of a piano guy than a guitar guy, so if I'm wrong, let me know. But then if I pinch it here, let's say that I pinch right here, you'll notice that the sound of this guitar will change. And if I release that, then the sound returns. So essentially with this guitar, what you do is that you apply different pressure throughout different points to create different notes. How are you creating different notes? Well, by changing where you have your fingers per string, you're then going to change the pressure on it, which will then change le fréquence, or frequency. Essentially, when you change this, when you add more tension to it, the note will get higher. And that is essentially how you change notes on a guitar. And it's actually really fun. I wish I would have learned guitar growing up because I do think it's very interesting. Just the idea of like... Actually, in my Audio 2 class, we talked about Robert Johnson, who was sort of the pioneer of guitar playing. And he was actually really smart because he realized that you can actually make it sound like you're playing two guitars at once if you do it in the right way. This is a bit of a tangent here, so I'll return back to the topic in just a moment. But essentially, with his long fingers, he was able to place like his thumb here and like wrap around here, play these very, very intricate chords and play these very intricate numbers. And it's really impressive. And considering the fact that he was doing this in like the early 30s, it was what many people call the sort of foundation of future guitar. Up until that point, we hadn't seen guitar playing like Robert Johnson's. And then Robert Johnson comes in and revamps the way we play guitar. That was a bit of a tangent. Going back to the main thing. You may be asking yourself, okay, so this causes vibrations, which then emits the sound through an object. But also, how is the sound getting made through this guitar? Because let's go here. I have this string of paper. And if I just, you're not getting the guitar sound. Sure, you could say, oh, well, it's the string. But also, there's more to it than just plucking on strings, making sounds. This does not happen without this. This guitar, to make sound, needs this structure. So how does it do that exactly? So when I play this, what's actually happening is that the sound the vibrations that you create from these strings will transfer from wherever you play down to this part right here. This is the bridge. Through transferring the sound into the bridge, it can then be carried out through the body of the guitar, which then comes out through here. Kind of like the violin that we talked about in class, how when you play the strings, you know, it actually gets played, like the sound will get, like the vibrations will travel through the bridge into the violin. And it's a similar principle with guitars. If I play this, I'm quite a meister on it. But if I play these notes, then the vibrations that are coming through these strings will actually transfer into here. And then from here, they will transfer into the body of the guitar, which will then shoot that out through this hole here. Also, by the way, if you're curious, the way the changing of the strings works is that when you tighten them, you know, like you're actually like tightening or loosening the strings when you want to change the notes on this, which I think is very interesting. Like I said, I'm more familiar with pianos, but I don't have access to a piano at the moment. But yeah, this was my brother's guitar, and I think it's very interesting. I think the guitar is a very, very accessible instrument. I love pianos, but like I obviously said, I don't have access to one. Pianos are very expensive, and I think guitars are a much more accessible instrument. The science behind making guitar is fairly straightforward. You have your strings, you have the body, the bridge, you have the tuning knobs that allow you to change the actual tightness of the strings. And in doing that, while this may not sound pretty, there are some people that make that sound beautiful. There are some people that can really make this simple device of music sound gorgeous. And you may have noticed a trend there that I was doing. When I went like, you may have noticed that when I was slamming my hand on the strings, the sound would deafen or stop. So why is that? Well, as we discussed earlier, sound is produced by objects that vibrate. So when I go like this, they're vibrating. So they're making sound through transferring through the bridge into the body. However, let's say I do this, and then I place my hand on there. You'll notice the sound stopped a lot quicker. That's because you're cutting off that vibration. And when you eliminate that, the object is not making the vibrations that create the sound. So then sound stops. Essentially, this is a bit of a ramble, but I love the guitar. Like I said, I never learned it growing up, but I do think it's a wonderful instrument. I think that if people are trying to get into the music, guitar is definitely a good place to go. And I think that people should give it a try. You know, that's one of the regrets that I have in life, is that I did not learn how to play the guitar, because it is a very straightforward, very easy to obtain instrument. Yeah, they're expensive, but also what's going to be more expensive, an acoustic guitar or a grand piano? Although I will say that I will have a grand piano before I die. That is one of my goals. I will own a grand piano. Essentially, that's all I got to say. This was for class music technology, or intro music technology. This was a whole lot of fun recording. Hope you all enjoyed, and feel free to maybe stick around when I make a video about pianos. Peace.